You're not just one of, you are currently the worst team in the Big 12. You will not embarrass me in that fashion if I'm the head coach. And I'll tell you this, it also goes hand in hand with the problem. I think that is a problem because Venables, he's too nice. He's going back in the locker room saying, hey guys, yeah, it was a rough one, but we're still rebuilding. You got to trust the process. I've debated and went back and forth on this a lot, so I don't want you to think I just instantly came to this conclusion. I'm like, all right, they gotta fire Brent Venables. I've also went back and forth with myself saying, man, should I make this video? Should I give it some time? And yeah, here we are. Let me make this extremely clear. I don't want to make this video. It's more of, it must be done. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. I know what all you are saying. Well, Matt, what happened 3 or 4 weeks ago? You was loving Brent Venables. You was loving Oklahoma. You said you liked everything he was doing there. And that's 100% correct. I was saying that in the offseason, I was ranting and hyping up Brent Venables. I was saying he was a great hire for Oklahoma. He was going to fit the culture and all that nice stuff. I said and stated that Brent Venables was arguably the best hire in the offseason. I thought Venables was going to fit that Oklahoma culture. I thought he had that OU DNA inside of him. I thought he was Oklahoma, but he isn't. Tragic, man. It's straight up tragic. We're not doing no intro, none of that. We're jumping straight into it because I got a lot. And I mean a lot to say. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We're on the road to 300K. If you don't want to subscribe, that's cool too. All right, man. Blah, blah, blah. Shut the crap up. Let's get into it. Oh, brother. There is many places we could start off with this crap show. But I say let's read off this tweet first from Joe Klatt. Don't think I've ever seen a team fall off a cliff quite like OU football has the last 3 weeks. Surprised they didn't show more heart in a rivalry game. Ignore the first part of that tweet. We'll talk about that in a second. It's the last part that I was like, yeah, that concerns me. Surprised they didn't show more heart. That right there alone is one of the many reasons why I think BV has to be fired. I said this in the last 2 recaps. It's okay to lose to Kansas State, TCU, or even Texas, but it's not okay and it's not acceptable to lose the way they did in blowout fashion. I get it 100%. This is a quote-unquote rebuilding year, and they're supposed to lose 4, 5, 6, or what looks like now, every single game of the year, but you gotta be not even just full out competitive, but slightly competitive in these games. I cannot stress this enough. It's not the fact they're losing the games, it's how they're losing the games. There's no fight. And you want to know whose fault that is? It's not the players, I'll tell you that much. It's Brent Venables, the head coach's fault. These are 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-old kids. It's not their responsibility to get hyped up for these games. That's what the head coach is for. He has to install that dog-like mentality in all these kids, and he hasn't done that. It doesn't matter if you're up by 50 or down by 50. There should never be any quit. Why do you think Nick Saban is always yelling at his players when they're playing Chattanooga Water Aquarium State Community College and they're up by 45? For this reason right here. You don't only want to go out there and beat your opponent, but you want to destroy them from the start to finish. It doesn't matter what the score says. Let's also take a look at this tweet, though, which I assume is from an OU fan. Brent Venables, everyone missed what he said from day one. Trust the process. It's going to be painful. Just think about your house getting burned down. Can you go back to it in weeks, months later and live in it, expecting everything to be good? No, it's going to be ugly. Oh man, I see what you tried to do there, but you're still wrong. You're 100% right. If your house burns down, you can't go back to it in a couple months and it's going to be okay. But that's not the case and scenario of what's happening right here. I'm with you, Oklahoma. I get it how hard it is to lose your starting quarterback and head coach, but you still got 3, 4, and 5-star recruits on this team. This is just one of the fans, for example, who's acting like Lincoln Riley completely gutted the program. Did he take a lot, and did we expect you to be worse? Yes, but he didn't take everything. This entire false perception where Oklahoma completely got gutted, that's just a straight up lie. And you want to know what it really is? It's all these OU fans trying to live in denial. They can't accept the cold hard truth that Venables ain't that good of a coach and he's not that guy, and your football team straight up sucks. You're not just one of, you are currently the worst team in the Big 12. Yes, that's right. You heard me correctly. You're the worst team in the Big 12. And if you think otherwise, where's your argument? My argument is you're 0-3 in conference play and the games aren't even close. And to go on top of that, you arguably have the worst defense in all college football, and Venables was supposed to be a defensive mastermind. Screw the offense. I've told you guys this for weeks. I don't care about the offense. Is it ugly? Yes, but the first thing you got to fix is the defense. For the sake of this video, let's say Dylan Gabriel on the offense was playing good. Well, heck, it doesn't matter because TCU could have scored 80 if they wanted to, and so could have Texas. The only reason TCU and Texas had 55 and 49 points is because they took their foot off the gas. Okay, let's get down to business. I don't want to just sit up here and rant while Oklahoma sucks and Venables sucks. I think most of you know that by now. Here's the main question I assume most of you asking. Yo, Matt, why should Venables be fired? It's only been 6 games into the season. He's only been the head coach for what, 2 or 3 months? I will gladly explain why, and I'm going to try to make this as short, simple, and sweet as possible. BV, which is Brent Venables, doesn't have the it factor. It's as simple as that. I know what some of you are sitting there saying, yo, Matt, what is the it factor? And I will gladly explain that as well. The it factor is what you see in players or coaches or just anybody within the blink of an eye. I wouldn't say there's an exact definition for an it factor. It's just something that athletes and people kind of know by now. For example, I always like to use this one, LaMelo Ball. I'm sure most of you know who he is. He's an NBA player for the Charlotte Hornets. I followed up with him ever since he was in 6th or 7th grade, and as soon as I watched him play for a minute or 2 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, that guy's going to be special. It's something about it in football players, basketball players, or any of these athletes. You can see him swing a baseball bat, shoot a 3-pointer, or just make a football play and catch, and you're like, okay, that guy has the it factor and he's going to be special. Another great example when it comes down to college football is Julio Jones. When all these scouts were going to see Julio Jones play high school football in the state of Alabama, everybody was like, yo, this guy's a monster. Julio Jones, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, and that's just some of the guys that came off the top of my head. They have the it factor. To put this into an even better perspective so me and you can relate to this in our everyday lives, have you ever been to a high school football game or a basketball game? You can tell in 1 or 2 minutes who the star player is. That's my point exactly. That's the it factor. You can tell right away, and applying that analogy to this situation, Brent Venables as a head coach does not have that quote-unquote it factor, at least in my humble opinion. I think you're seeing a great example of a guy who is a legendary defensive coordinator, but maybe he's just not cut out to be a head coach. I like BV as a person. I'm wishing him the best of luck, but he doesn't have it right now. He's not a leader of men, and I hate to say this, but I think it's the harsh truth. I don't think these OU players even respect him or fear him. And I think everybody watching this, if you've ever played a sport, if you don't fear or respect your head coach, and most times those go hand in hand, it's not going to be good for the team. I'll tell you this right now. I've played for head coaches that I absolutely feared my life for. They were grabbing me by my jersey, throwing me on the bench. And I've also played for head coaches that throw us parties if we win a game by 1 point. I've played for both different types. And out of those 2 different types of head coaches I played for, you want to know which team always did the best? The team with the head coach that I feared and everybody else feared. Now, I don't want y'all to get this wrong. Some of the roughest and meanest head coaches I've ever played for, they're also the nicest people you'll ever meet off the court. But in that moment during the game, it's a completely different story. I don't feel like these players not only just fear Venables, I don't even think they have an ounce of respect for him, and I'll explain why. Some of you may think that's ludicrous and ridiculous of me to say, but I don't think it is, because if they did respect him, they would give it their all during every second of the game, and they haven't in the past 2 or 3 weeks. I don't care that Oklahoma lost the past 2 weeks, it's the fact they quit in those games. They flat out quit, and anybody that tells you otherwise is a complete idiot, and they're trying to sugarcoat it. I'll tell you this, and we're going to end off the video here before I completely explode. I just can't stand losers, and I also can't stand quitters. I'm a better head coach than Venables because I'm a leader. You're not going to go out there and embarrass me in that fashion. Because yes, Oklahoma losing, guess who that falls on? Not the players, the head coach. When you win, the players get praised. When you lose, the head coach, he takes the L. You will not embarrass me in that fashion if I'm the head coach. And I'll tell you this, it also goes hand in hand with the problem. I think that is a problem because Venables, he's too nice. He's going back in the locker room saying, hey guys, yeah, it was a rough one, but we're still rebuilding. You gotta trust the process. Oh my goodness, man. Give me a break. That is just a silly and stupid excuse by now. You gotta get rid of Venables right now. I'm sorry. I know it's only been 6 games into the year, but you gotta get rid of him. It's not the 1990s. It's not the early 2000s. You don't have to justify giving a coach 2 or 3 years and then fire him. You can do it after 1 year. The reason I think you get rid of him right now is so you can bring in a new head coach like Matt Rule and he can already start rebuilding the team for next year. Because worst case scenario for Oklahoma fans, and I'm telling you, this more than likely is going to happen, you're going to see the same thing that happened to Auburn, and it's still happening right now. Auburn's head coach Brian Harsin has been terrible ever since he's got there, and they're continuing to give him those 2 or 3 years, and then they're going to fire him. I don't understand. If you know a head coach is not the guy from the start, and it looks like Venables is not the guy, just get rid of him him now. Why waste 2 or 3 years? Why do it? Once again, I'm only saying this because of how they're losing. Not that they lost, it's how they're losing. There's no coming back from this. Venables is not a good coach, and matter of fact, I'll take it a step even farther. He's a bad head coach. He's one of the worst in the country. Get rid of him now. Get rid of him. I'm telling you, you'll come back to this video in a year from now and you'll say, dang, Matt was right. It's kind of like being with that one girl where you're like, I don't really think we fit together all too well. We don't like the same things, but she's a cool person. We just started talking and hanging out. Maybe down the road we'll start liking each other more. It never works like that, boys. Some of the best relationships I've ever been in my life, we clicked within the first hour. I am very curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But right away, Billy!